Stop scrolling for a moment, because what you're about to hear is the kind of situation that makes you lean back and say, "There's no way this actually happened." Yet it did, and what makes it even messier is that every second of it was caught on camera. One small mistake, one impulsive moment, and suddenly the entire internet is pointing at King Harris, dragging his name through the dirt, and demanding a response from his father, the one and only T.I. And honestly, T.I.'s reaction is nothing close to what people thought it would be. Everything began late last night when a blurry, shaky video started spreading on social media at lightning speed. At first, no one could tell who the person in the clip was. The image quality was terrible, and the room was chaotic. But then viewers heard a voice loud, excited, and almost reckless. That voice was instantly recognizable. King wasn't trying to hide, stay quiet, or fade into the background. When the camera shifted, he stood right there in the center, doing something so bold and so unexpected that people had to replay the clip over and over just to confirm what they had seen. Within minutes, the internet exploded. Quick reactions turned into long discussions. Debates spread across every platform. Some people insisted this was typical King, wild, unpredictable, always doing the most. Others felt he crossed a line that couldn't be ignored. And the wildest part? Reports said T.I. didn't even know the video existed until it had already gone viral. Imagine waking up and seeing your child trending around the world for something you never expected. But to really understand what happened, you have to rewind the story. The video might have been the spark, but the real issue started long before that night. King has been struggling for a while, not in an over-the-top dramatic way, but in a subtle, quiet way that people close to him could sense. He's been doing too much, talking too loud, and surrounding himself with people who cheer for him, even when he's clearly making the wrong choices. Deep down, he's a young man trying to discover who he is while the internet constantly tells him who he should be. People forget that King grew up in a family where cameras were always around. Every argument, every laugh, every mistake was turned into content. That kind of pressure affects you. Some kids shut down. Others push back with everything they've got. King chose to push back. He never wanted to be seen as a copy of T.I. He wanted to stand on his own. But every time he tried to create his own identity, people compared him to his father or dismissed him completely. Comments like he could never be like T.I. or he doesn't know anything about real life cut deeper than outsiders realize. So by the time the incident happened, King was carrying months, maybe even years, of frustration. He had become a target for online jokes, interviews twisted his words, and every small mistake turned into a meme. Last night he finally snapped. It wasn't anger. It wasn't violence. It was rebellion. A desperate attempt to be seen, even if it meant showing the worst version of himself. The video showed him in a crowded room with loud music blasting. People were shouting, laughing, recording on their phones. And then he did something that made the entire internet gasp. Even his biggest fans struggled to defend him this time. Some said he was trying to prove something. Others believed he didn't understand the consequences. But there was one thing everyone agreed on: it was too much. When the clip reached the shade room, everything changed. That's when the comments shifted from playful to serious. One person wrote, "This stopped being funny. Someone needs to step in before this gets worse." Another said, "T.I. has to handle this. It looks bad." Many people blame T.I., claiming he let King grow up too fast with too much freedom and not enough structure. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, T.I. was dealing with the situation in silence. Sources say he isolated himself in his studio, watching the video repeatedly without saying a word. It wasn't anger, it was shock. It's the moment every parent dreads. Realizing your child is becoming someone you don't recognize, and the world is watching it happen. One person who was with him said T.I. kept whispering, "How did it get to this point?" Hearing that alone is heartbreaking. By morning, T.I. finally responded, not through a polished press release or a manager, but by going live online. No script, no filters, just a father trying to make sense of what happened. Just a father standing in front of the world during one of the toughest moments of his life. That's what T.I. looked like when he finally went live. And the first thing he said wasn't about King at all. It was about himself. He admitted that somewhere along the way he slipped. He didn't realize how much pressure King was carrying or how heavy that pressure had become. People expected him to come online angry, defensive, or ready to lecture everyone. But instead, he came with honesty, something the internet wasn't prepared for. T.I. talked about how being a well-known parent is completely different from what people imagine. You can provide your children with comfort, money, opportunities, and everything they ask for, but still miss what they actually need emotionally. He explained that what happened with King wasn't just one reckless moment. It was a sign of something deeper, something he failed to notice sooner. At one point he said, "When your child becomes a headline, you start questioning everything. And right now, I'm questioning myself more than I'm questioning him." That line changed the whole mood. Then his voice shifted. It stayed calm, but there was a seriousness underneath it that everyone felt. He spoke to King directly, not as a rapper, not as a celebrity, but as a father who was hurting. He said he loved him, but watching that video felt like a punch to the chest. It wasn't the behavior he raised King to show, and he refused to let social media decide who his son turns into. And then came the sentence that froze the internet. "I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to save you, even if it's from yourself." That one sentence hit harder than any lecture could. Comment sections stopped arguing for a moment. Even people who were criticizing King earlier softened. It wasn't anger in T.I.'s voice, it was fear. Not fear of embarrassment, but fear of watching his son fall into a place he might not be able to climb out of. After T.I. ended the live, King finally responded. But his message wasn't loud or bold the way people expected. It sounded uncertain, almost shaky. He admitted he made a mistake, but he also brought up something very real, something most people never consider. He said he felt stuck between two labels. Either he was supposed to be a perfect version of his father, or he was supposed to be the villain of every story. There was no space to simply be young, unsure, and learning. He said quietly, "Nobody sees the pressure. They only see the moment I break." For the first time, King sounded like a human being instead of a headline. Not a meme, not the celebrity kid acting out, but a young man caught between expectations he never asked for and a spotlight he didn't choose. But even with his honesty, the internet didn't slow down. The video kept spreading. New angles, more commentary, endless opinions. And with each new version of the clip, people picked a different person to blame. Some pointed at King, others pointed at T.I., some blamed fame, and some blamed the environment around him. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, a mix of pressure, insecurity, ego, and hurt. Inside the Harris home, things were shifting quickly. Tiny stepped in as well. Not with anger or lectures, but with calm energy only a mother can bring. People close to the family said she sat down with King for a long emotional talk. No yelling, no threats, just honesty. She asked him directly, "Who are you trying to be?" And King didn't know what to say. That silence revealed everything. Friends say King has been keeping his distance from people lately. Not because he's angry, but because he's scared of doing something wrong again, scared of cameras, scared of saying one sentence and waking up to thousands of comments tearing him apart. But the people around him keep telling him the same thing. One mistake doesn't define your entire life. What matters is how you grow after it. And strangely, in the middle of all this chaos, something unexpected happened. People online started seeing King differently. Not as the loud kid who always ended up trending for the wrong reasons, but as someone clearly struggling. Even fans who used to mock him began defending him, saying he deserved support instead of constant criticism. Some even called out the media for treating him more harshly than they treat adults. Then came the biggest twist, T.I.'s next move. Instead of trying to hide the situation or pretend nothing was wrong, he invited King to the studio. Not to record music, but to talk. Really talk. No cameras, no managers, no distractions. Just a father and son trying to rebuild something fame nearly broke. A source who overheard parts of their conversation said it was emotional from the start. At one point, King broke down crying. He admitted he didn't want to be the problem child anymore. He said he was tired of people assuming the worst about him, tired of being seen as a joke. He just wanted people to understand him for who he really is. And T.I. cried too, because sometimes even grown men reach a breaking point. The conversation ended with something no one expected. A real plan. Not punishment. Not distancing themselves from each other. A plan that included therapy, structure, stepping away from certain people, and rebuilding King's image in a way that is honest, not forced. T.I. told him, "This ain't about protecting the brand. This is about protecting you." And that's when things started to shift. King began posting less, talking less, and staying away from the spotlight. Some called it public relations cleanup. Others realized it was something much deeper. Healing, growth, accountability. The kind of messy progress people rarely see behind celebrity walls. Just a few hours ago, a new clip appeared online, not of the scandal but of T.I. and King walking side by side. They were talking quietly as cameras followed from a distance. For the first time in a long while, King didn't look angry. He looked calm, grounded, maybe even relieved. It was a small moment, but it spoke volumes. This isn't just a viral mistake. It's a story about a young man growing up under intense pressure, and a father trying to protect his child while the world watches. Famous families aren't perfect. They argue, they cry, they stumble, and they learn. And right now, it looks like King Harris is taking his first real steps toward a comeback, with T.I. walking right beside him.